In our last episode, we broke down everything you need to know about getting started with trains in Satisfactory, from push-pull setups and transporting resources to train route priority and signalling. Following on from this, today we're going to cover junctions and signalling them, along with ramped curves and how to use blueprints to make setting up a train network super easy. And in the next episode, I intend to cover how to use advanced train functions, station balancing, and how to run multiple trains when transporting high throughput resource lines, such as tier 6 belts. Now, as this guide will be in depth, do check out the timestamps below, as I may be covering things that you already know. And if you feel you could do with going over the basics first, then do check out my previous guide. I'll put a link in the bottom of the description below for you. Now, in this video we will be covering single and dual line T-junctions, single and dual line cross junctions, roundabouts, better junction design, ramped curves, and straight and curved railway blueprints. So let's get started. Now, a T-junction is simple, with one line vertically leading up to a horizontal rail line. These then split and merge with the horizontal line a few foundations prior. Now, you will rarely need to set up signals for this system, as you'll most likely be running only one train on the line. However, if you wanted to set up these signals for this, you would have block signals in both directions on the sections before the junction. Now, if you want to use pathing signals, this would be done by placing or replacing all the block signals leading into the junction with a pathing signal, but leaving the exiting signals as blocks. A more likely situation when using T-junctions would be running a two-way system, or perhaps a single line to a two-way main line. Now, for a dual line T-junction like this, first place the lines heading vertically, with both stopping two foundations prior to the first horizontal line. And then above this first horizontal line, you will have a second horizontal line. Now, at this point, you'll need to consider the direction of travel. For example, a right-handed drive train will have the right line heading left to the top horizontal line and right to join the lower horizontal line, or vice versa if you're running left-handed. Now, from here, we will take the line flowing into the junction and connect it to the main lines flowing out of the junction, and then connect the outflowing line to the lines flowing into the junction. This will create what may look like a W shape for the vertical line. This time, when signaling, you will want to place a single block signal on the entrances heading into the junction and a single block signal on the exits of the junction. So that's on each of the three sections. Again, you can replace the block signal that's leading into the junction with a pathing signal if you wish. Just make sure all the entrance signals are the same, whether that's pathing signals or block signals. Otherwise, you will have errors displayed. Now, this system works the same for cross junctions where two lines cross over one another. Ensure, though, that each of the entrances have signals placed, and equally the exits have signals placed flowing in the desired direction. Now, if you want the lines to be two-way, you'll need to put two signals, one heading in both directions on both the entrance and the exits. And yes, you can place pathing signals, but there really isn't a necessity for that in this particular circumstance, as you won't have multiple trains trying to pass through the same junction at the same time, because they're going to cross into one another. Dual line cross junctions differ from this, as path signals will allow multiple trains to pass through at once. So for a dual line cross junction, place your 4 crossing lines in the center foundations of a 4x4 grid. then expand each end by 2 foundations length of track, followed by a further 2 foundations worth of track. Now, considering the flow of traffic, we will place a signal on the first joint of each line heading in and out of the junction. If you wish, you can place pathing signals leading into the junction, and at this point you should have a 4-way cross junction. However, we can easily turn this into an interchange, allowing any entering train to go straight on or left or right. To do this, drag a rail from the first joint across to the first joint of the neighboring track to its right, and once you've done it for each segment, this should create a diamond-shaped interchange. However, this will only allow a train entering the junction to head straight on or turn right. From here, we will actually need to connect a rail from the second joint and run it to the second joint of the line it's currently not connected to, and we will also need to do this for each section as well, like so. And here you can see the completed junction, which will allow the train to go straight on, to the left and also to the right, regardless of which direction it's entering. Now that we've covered the 2 main junction types in Satisfactory, let's build a train roundabout. This has been so much easier to do in 1.0. Now, the idea of a roundabout is that the flow of the traffic will remain, as depending on the size, multiple trains can enter the roundabout without colliding paths. Now, to set up a roundabout, first place a single straight rail. This will be our anchor piece. From here, connect another line to create a quarter circle to this. This can be done by placing the edge of the curve 3 foundations up and 2 to the side of the line you've just placed. This would be a small 3x3 grid right angle, and you can do this 3 times or 4 times to create a circle. Alternatively, you can expand this by doing it on a 4x4 grid or a 5x5 grid, and so on until you create larger roundabouts of your choice. Now, once you've created a quarter circle curve, you need to repeat this 3 more times to complete the circle, and you can then delete the straight anchor rail that we placed first. From here, place a signal on every half point between the curves. What this does is split the track into 8 segments, and once done, you can place 2 parallel lines heading towards the roundabout, ending just 1 foundation apart from the curve. From here, delete the signals, and according to the directional flow of your train network, you can run the entrance into the half segment you've created, and on the opposite side, have the outline section connect with the roundabout. Now, if you want 2 lines to join on a split from different directions, you'll notice that the game will come up with an error message stating switches are too close to one another, but this can actually be tricked into being placed by pressing H first, and the system will run efficiently once you've connected them together. Now, to signal a roundabout, ensure that your entrances are all blocked and so are your exits, and if you want to break the system into smaller segments, you can place the pathing signals on the entrances as well as on all of the half segments that we placed before. This should allow smoother traffic flow on roundabouts. It's also possible to use this particular technique to create slightly tighter roundabouts by placing a half circle curve from your anchor point instead of quarter curves, and then you can use the signals to create the junctions or edges that you need on the railway. However, having rails cross paths on any junction is far from efficient, as trains will slow as they're heading towards the junction. As such, where possible, never cross lines, only merge or split when necessary. This can be done by splitting the crossing track, the rail that's going to cross the other rail, before the junction, and then running the rail over via a bridge above the sections of track instead of crossing them, and then you can merge it back onto the new section of track. This would be particularly beneficial in busier areas of the rail, such as along a main line between biomes where multiple trains may be running. Moving on, let's talk about ramped curves, which are used to take trains from one height to another whilst curving. And this is quite difficult to do nicely in the game. Personally, I prefer to use straight rail ramps where possible, but a lot of you have asked how to cleanly create curved ramps for trains. Unfortunately, curved ramps naturally lend themselves to clipping, which is why when I use curved ramps, I do a small 5-degree curve and only use 1 meter ramps rather than 2 meters. This is because the steeper the ramp, the more prone it is to clipping. For my method, I use the framed floors rather than the normal foundations. First, I will place a framed floor on a 5-degree curve by holding Control whilst hovering over the far edge to the direction that I want the ramp to curve in. For example, if I want the ramp to curve to the left, I'm going to place this on the right corner. If I want to curve it to the right, then I'm going to hover it over the left corner edge. Now, when it's directly in the center to the corner edge, I use the mouse wheel to turn it 1 increment in the direction that I want it to be curved. I then press H, which locks it into position, and from here I can nudge the framed floor 4 increments towards the direction of the curve, which is the center of the foundation, and then 4 towards the end edge. This should create a flush edge with a 5-degree turn. We'll then repeat this for a few times with the frame floor to start the curve. So this is going to be all along one level. Then I'm going to add the 1 meter ramp onto the first framed foundation. Then for the next framed foundation, I'll then stack the framed floors up so that it is slightly below the top edge of the ramp that we've just placed. And then I'm going to place the ramp again. And I'm going to continue this method all the way to the top, then place the rails on the curve. We'll start from a straight section, so at the beginning of the curve or at the top section leading into the curve, and we're going to place these rails so that they are halfway along the 1 meter ramps. This should create a pretty clean ramp without any visual clipping. Now let's move on to creating blueprints for your railways. Now, I've recently created a few of these in my Let's Play, which I do recommend you check out. Now, I cover how to build them in the video, which I will link below. But the big difficulty of a train line is that it's time consuming to set up. By creating snapping foundation sections for the curves and the straight segments, you can make your life so much easier, and with the know-how, you'll be able to add some design elements to quickly create a beautiful rail blueprint for you to use in your save. So for this, I do recommend you do 5 to 10 blueprints for this that will allow you to create the straight segment, the initial curve to the left or to the right, and then the continued curve. And this will allow you to snap the blueprints together to create the layout really quickly. Then you'll just need to add the rail to the system. And I'll show you how to do it with a single track for the first 5 pieces. And then you want to do a double version of each of these if you're doing two-way travel. This is where the 10 blueprints come in total. And for this, all you need to do is place foundations on the inside of the curved foundations to create that double version, but I'll show you in a moment as well. So first, create a single line of foundations. Now you can decorate this if you'd like to, but make sure the total height of the blueprint is the same as all your other designs, otherwise they're not going to align. Now I've done a really simple design setup here. I've used the chain fence 1/2 meter into the foundation with a beam covering the bottom section and then a single wall border. It's really simple, quick and easy. Do use it if you want to. Now once you're happy with the straight line blueprint, save it. And then we're going to do a curve variant of this. So make sure you remember exactly what you've placed for your detailing. Now for the curve variant, we are going to use the same technique that I just showed you for the ramp section without the ramp. So we're just going to do the curve. Now you'll need to do 1 blueprint heading to the left and 1 to the right. This is because it will snap at the straight edge rather than the curved section. So this makes it really easy to snap the curves to the straight segment because they start with both a flat edge. However, if you place the curved pieces like this together, you're going to have a straight section followed by a curve and then another straight section followed by a curve, rather than this continued curve, which is what we're going to be looking for. As such, we need to create a curved blueprint specifically for the curve. And we need to do this for the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So the way that we build this is we're going to take the curved blueprints that we've just built to the left and to the right, and we're just going to remove the first foundation that would normally align to the edge. So it's the straight edge part in the blueprint designer. So we're just going to remove all of that, and then once you've done this, all you need to do is save it as a separate blueprint. I call mine a continuous curve to separate it from left curve, right curve. And once you've done that, you'll be able to piece them together quite easily. So for the straight blueprint to a curved piece, you can use the blueprint mode and then just nudge the blueprints together. Then for the continuous curved section, you actually have to place the new continued curves against the curve piece using the default mode rather than the blueprint snapping mode. This will allow you to then nudge them together to create the rail layout foundations really easily. And then all you need to do is add the rail to them. And there you are. I hope you found this video useful, and if you do have any questions, please do let me know in the comments below, and I'll try my best to answer all of them in the next video or in the comments below. And I will add the third part to our rail guide in the end screen now once it's published. But as always guys, special thanks does go to all of our amazing supporters on Patreon, most notably our Lunar Eclipse Patrons, Firefless the Calamity, Ben and Star, and now Blood Moon of the Day, which today is Irate Monk. But until next time, as always, ciao for now.